It's the Small Business Rally Point for Monday, July 6th. Hard to believe it's July 2020. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach, and today we've got just a great episode lined up. We've got some serious brain power in the room. We're going to talk with the one and only Michael Rampolla from Spearity, who's going to do a presentation on Trinity planning, which just sounds so smart. It's helping you plan 3 different ways between now and the end of 2020. And we have a very good roundtable discussion lined up. We'll do wins of the week. We'll also have a group brainstorming opportunity. If there's something in your business that you want to talk about, we'll definitely give you a chance to do that. And there's an article, if we have time, there's an article I shared on LinkedIn where Andrew Yang is proposing, or at least commenting on, the work benefits of a 4-day work week. And it got some good discussion going on LinkedIn. So I thought we would bring it up here if we have time. If we don't have time, we'll do it some other time. But the Small Business Rally Point is our weekly conversation for small business owners, and it's sponsored by Serendipity Labs and the New Idea Collective for small business owners. A shout out to the one that makes it happen, Jennifer Buchholz. She is the ultimate connector and the showrunner of this program. Thank you, Jennifer, for doing the thing. And if you want to stay in touch with the show and never have the wrong login link again, and you know who you are, make sure to text the word BIZ to 414-240-1315. That's 414-240-1315. And we will send you a direct link and a preview of who's going to be on the show every Monday that we go live. One other opportunity is to text the word IDEA to that number, and you'll get the latest on the Idea Collective for small business owners. All right, so how about we get on with it? We're excited today to bring on Michael Rampolla from Spearity. And he's got a great topic that's going to help us get ready for the second half of 2020, because July 1st was the start of third quarter, which I can't believe it's the start of third quarter. It is. Yeah. But we're here. So, Michael, let's start here. Trinity Planning. Fancy?
Yes.
Tell us
Fancy
what
name.
Trinity
Thank
Planning is.
So Trinity Planning is, well, I'm going to pull up a visual here, but Trinity Planning is figuring out your options in advance. So here, let's do the thing. Let's share this, and then I'll share that with, I can do a share, right?
Yes, I'm going to.
I know it's not a whiteboard, but I promise we'll get to the whiteboard.
No,
but this is such a,
all participants can share.
Okay, well let's all do the thing then. We'll do a screen share jam. All right, so this is the thing. So call this your strategic Trinity. So if you're familiar with the idea, it's 1 strategy, 3 plans, or 1 plan, 3 strategies. I guess either way really is telling the same story. But the idea here is you want to know what you're going to do before the thing happens. And whenever there is a situation like we're in right now, for our businesses, we always do this at the quarter anyway, but it just so happens that about the turn of the last quarter and about the turn of this quarter, things are changing pretty dramatically. And so from a very well-known economist, we got this concept, the Institute for Alternative Futures, and they use the terms high aspiration, conventional expectation, and growing desperation. As you can imagine, we don't want that third category. But
yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, it's bad. But as you can identify, when things start to slide, they really start to slide. And when things are going well, you keep thinking things are going to keep going well. So it's understanding that there's a little bit of psychology that comes into play when you're experiencing successes and when you're experiencing failures. So if you're not prepared in advance, that psychology can either get ahead of you or get behind you, so to speak. So understanding that whenever there's an inflection point, a change in your business, a change in the economy, a change in anything, there are 3 ways you can go, and understanding that could happen is step 1. Having a plan of what to do about it is step 2.
And the reason to have 3 different plans is it makes sense to have 3 plans if something's going to go south, so you know what to do if things go south. But it can be dangerous if things start going great and you don't know what to do about it. Is that why we need 3 different plans?
Nailed it. Exactly right. Let me add the second layer to this, which is the way we talk about it. So if that's the conventional way to think about it, here's the way we talk about it. Let's say that's the future 3 ways, but let's talk about it in terms of your business. If you're thinking about this in terms of your business, that pivot or inflection point, notice when it's happening, you want to pursue a target scenario, whatever that is. That's not quite ideal, but things are going as planned. When things are going into that upper thing, we call it the dream case scenario, you want to leverage that. So when successes are happening and things are trending up, if you don't know what to do with them, if you're not ready for success, and that does happen, it's possible to not be ready for success. If you miss that opportunity, you don't get to leverage that. You don't get to ride the rocket ship. So having a plan in advance enables you to leverage the successes when they happen. And as you can imagine, the alternative is true also. We don't want to slide that worst case scenario, just ride the roller coaster down. We want to mitigate those failures and try to pull ourselves back up. And being able to plan ahead is our ability to do that.
So you plan at the quarter with your clients. Is that what you suggest we do, is plan in the quarter, or when's the best time to plan?
You know what? Well, the best time to plan is yesterday. The second best time to plan is today, right?
That sounds like a Michael thing to say, yeah.
Thank you very much. When's the best day to plant a tree? Same idea. So when it comes to planning, we recommend the quarter, and there's two reasons why. Number one, actually the probably most important reason is that your brain is really good at thinking in certain time frames. The quarter, 90 days, is one of them. A lot of us love using months, and there's nothing against months, but months are weird. Like they start on different days of the week. They have different lengths of time. Months are very hard to compare one over another, but quarters are nice and tight. 90 days, 13 weeks. Quarters are easier to compare quarter over quarter, and your brain can actually think better in a quarter. First of all, better than a year, and the next unit of time is a week. So your brain is good at a day, a week, and a quarter. Units of time greater or smaller than that, for whatever reason, like we have a hard time estimating how much time that really is. So 90 days is a good point because it's also, you don't just have an annual plan and hope that everything goes to plan. Yeah. Anybody that just had an annual plan, come March, that annual plan was shot. If you had a 90-day plan, great, time to assess and adjust and figure out what to do from this inflection point.
So we want to make sure this is an interactive discussion, as will the roundtable be in just a little bit. So we want you to ask questions if you have them. Drop into the chat if there's something that you want to know about. But I'm curious, as we're looking at that graph there, what percentage roughly is the yellow? What percentage is roughly the red? Are you doing 25% on either side of the average, or how wide do you plan?
Well, great question. So I would say if you're going to call this 100%, I would put 50 to 60% of your plan into the target scenario, and then have another 20 to 25% ready for the dream case and the worst case. You don't need to plan the whole thing out, and really it's not even planning out the whole scenario. Here's a couple quick questions to think about. So let's say we're starting Q3, so this is perfect. So jump out ahead to September 30th. So this is the interactive part. Everybody can do this. It's September 30th. What is the dream case scenario for your business on September 30th?
The Bears are 4-0.
Fantastic.
No, wait, sorry. Yeah.
No, that's a dream. That's a dream case.
It's a total. Believe me, it's a dream.
On multiple layers. That is a dream case scenario.
That's a dream. But okay, so I want to make 100% of my revenue goal for the quarter. Let's say that's the scenario.
But that's not dream case. That's your target, right? You want to make
That's true.
So let's imagine that comes in, and then a major opportunity comes in, and a strategic partner comes through, and somebody just walks up to Pat Miller and says, Pat, I want you to promote my thing. Here's $1 million. Because you have built up a brand to the point that I know if I invest this money with you, I will get a 4 times ROI, and I really need to make some money. So really go dream case on dream case.
Okay. That's
step one. The second question is, what would you do next? So if that all happened, what would you do? So Pat, somebody walks up to you and says, let's be a little more reasonable. Here's $100,000. It's my marketing budget. Tell me what to do with it, and half of it is yours if we make our ROI. Well, what would you do? Would you keep going the same way you're going, or would you change the way that you're helping this person? Would you shift some projects and some priorities around?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
You put those steps into place, and that way you know what the plan might be.
You got it. So that's the idea behind the dream case. So some people say, and I've run into this a lot, some business owners actually have a hard time getting to a dream case because they say, oh, I couldn't take on a project that big. I wouldn't know what to do if somebody offered me that much in this much time frame. Mm-hmm. And then when it happens, they figure it out. So the short answer is you'd figure it out. Because if that huge opportunity came along, if the dream case really dropped in your lap, would you say no to the Bears 4-0 and say, no, I'll take 2-2? If we said we have the opportunity for 4-0, right. Well, I know I said 4-0, but that wasn't really realistic. I'll take 2 losses. No, you take all 4. So
it sounds like you deal with this when you talk with clients quite a bit, that you can't get them to dream big enough. Is that a standard thing, that you're trying to get them to really think about what the success might look like?
Well, I'm going to say yes. And Pat, I think you're a great coach, and you yourself cut back on your expectations, even in this conversation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people did the same thing. There's probably that initial thought, and then they all went, well,
Yeah.
100% revenue is your target. Above that is your dream case. And then we go like, multiply that 2 or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So understand that there is a dream case scenario. Understand that you are encouraged to think a little bit bigger, because when the successes start happening, we leverage them. So when a win comes in, if you track that win, this is a mindset thing. If you track your success, you're much more likely to repeat it. If you ignore your successes, you're much less likely to repeat your successes, and you'll miss out on the opportunity to leverage them.
So how do you know when you need to switch? If you're going along and you're at 60% on August 15th, is it a straight numbers game, or are there other indicators that guide you to track one plan versus another plan? When do you know?
Great question. So I said that months are bad for planning, but they are good for milestones. So, because that's thirds, right? So if I say this is week 1, that's week 5, this would be 13, which makes this week 9. So if I have my plan going into the quarter, I want to set, so if this is 100% of my revenue target, actually, who did I do this with the other day? Oh, that's okay. So I'll use a real example. So I was doing planning with one of our members, and I had a number and he had a number, and I decided I let him split the difference. I said 8, he said 6, we went 7, but he had a really hard time getting to 7, dream case scenario. So what we did for him was I said, all right, I'll give you 6, but I'm going to take 7 if you're ahead of pace.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get to 6 by that point, you're at, let's see, so this is 0, 2, 4, 6. If you're at better than 2K by the end of the 5th week, and or better than 4K by the end of the 9th week, I'm going to go stretch. And I know he can get to 8, but I'm letting him take 7 as a stretch. He was also looking at a multiplier. So he sells hot sauces, and they're really, really good hot sauces. So he multiplies by how many butcher shops and retail outlets he's in. So he came in with 3. His target is 15. Places to be.
Yep.
And so if he goes 3, 6, it was 12, 9, whatever the math was. I'm doing the math wrong. 3, 15, 9, 4. Okay, so it was like 3, 6. Yeah, you can tell math is not my strong suit. 3. You get the idea. Well,
Yeah.
where's somebody else says this figured out. You get the idea. I said, so if you beat your dollar pace or your partner pace by these milestones, then we level up. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to identify what I call the sparks. So identify the spark that's going to take you over that line. So let's say you're trying to land a big client, and it's not ahead of pace or behind a pace. And if that thing happens, we need to kick in another gear. So it's also important to identify for your business, what are the sparks or the triggers that are above and below your target? What's a major success? What's a major failure? COVID is probably a major failure. A lot of us had to mitigate and pivot and adjust.
Drink.
You lose your keystone, your cornerstone client. The mall loses an anchor tenant. Boom, right? That puts us into the mitigate plan immediately. But if I don't have a plan, it's too late. And that's probably the number one thing that I want people to take away from this is planning in advance. As I said, the best time to plan is yesterday. The second best time is today. Planning in advance is how you win and take advantage of the successes and mitigate those failures.
How detailed of an up or down plan are we creating? So let's say a major client gets added, major client gets lost. Do we just know when that happens, we run through this series of exercises, or we have that series of exercises already done behind glass just in case?
Great question. Always you have them done behind glass, so to speak, like ready to break out if need be. Right. The core thing that you should always do as a business owner is pay attention to your revenue, number one. And you need to know, ideally, you need to know, again, 3 numbers. You've got your target number. Yeah, you've got your minimum number, which is in order for me to pay my expenses and stay in business, personal, professional, what are my expenses? And that's the base number. That target is obviously what you'd like to be making. And then there can absolutely be a max. And if you get over it, you're in gravy town, and now we start reinvesting that money or making different purchases.
Ooh, gravy town.
I don't know, that sound good? Gravy? Gravy town?
Put that on the t-shirt, Jennifer. Gravy town.
It's on the list.
All right.
Yeah. So
Let's do this.
minimum is I cover my expenses. I don't go out of business. That has to be your mitigate plan.
Okay. If you have any questions for Michael while we have him, I mean, this is amazing. Drop into the chat and we'll get you on the air here. We also have a brainstorming section coming up later in the call. So if there's something in your business you could use a great name on, or a way to solve a problem, or a promotion or a marketing idea, we are loaded today on the call. So make sure that you think about that in advance of the Rally Point Roundtable, which is coming up. But before we leave you, Michael, there are people watching this call that are thinking, I don't do that. I should do that. How do I do that? So if someone wants your help, or they want to go down this path, how do they get in touch with you, and how does it start?
Really easy. I mean, anybody can reach out to me at any time. Obviously, everybody inside the little plug for the Idea Collective. Anybody inside the Idea Collective knows how to get a hold of me. I try to hold once a week or once every other week, office hours, so to speak, where the whiteboard is open. But if for some reason you're not yet in the Idea Collective, you can absolutely reach out to me. I'll drop a meeting link in the chat, and people can reach out and get a meeting with me that way.
Well, it's a great resource, and you do a great job with those office hours inside Idea Collective. It's always a great time.
They're fun.
JB, you had a question that you wanted to ask about with planning for our bench in relation to the plan. Can you explain what you meant?
Yeah, so I think that, one of the reasons that, again, solopreneur in the room right now. So when I think about that great big pie in the sky opportunity, there's also like the excitement, and then on the flip side, the fear of, oh crap, how do I do that? How am I prepared? And I think what Michael's talking about makes me feel a little bit more confident in the approach, because it's like, oh, so if this happens, then these are the resources that you need to have on deck on your bench, right? Your bench strength. Like, I don't think the Bears have that, but I don't know football well enough to know that.
Hey now.
So I just thought, like, Michael, when you're working through this exercise, is that also part of the process? I think Pat's analogy of breaking the glass is part of it, but for me, it's like, I think I'd be able to go to yes faster on an opportunity if I knew that I'd put some of those bench strength plans together as well.
Absolutely. Your ability to pull the trigger, for better or for worse, is absolutely based on how well you've planned. Back March 13th, actually, Darren, our CEO, coined this phrase. He said, or coined this line. He said, during times of crisis, planning influences whether you panic or pivot. Drink. And I think you could put inflection change in there and be just as well positioned. So when you have planned ahead, when the unexpected, for better or for worse, comes your way, you are that much better prepared to leverage it and or mitigate it. You can stay on track. I remember, so I played football in high school, and I was linebacker and fullback, so I was basically getting hit every play. And you know what? That's fine. Like, I have no problem, and I weathered all of that, no problem. You take me off the field and hit me just as hard, I'm actually going to get hurt. Why? Because I'm not ready for it. I'm not in the mental place. I'm not in the physical place. I'm not prepared to take that hit and weather that storm. But if I am in context, if I am prepared, if I have mentally and physically prepared myself to take the exact same hit, then I'm much more likely to stay on track and stay upright or make the play. And whether you like sports analogies or not, your ability to think and plan ahead and put yourself in the position where if and when that thing happens, I am ready for it, you'll be that much more ready to mitigate or leverage it.
Well, and the other side of the bench for me is, oh, I don't do that kind of training. So I don't really do Power BI, or I don't really do these other things. But knowing people that I can refer work to and still have that funnel through my business, that's still rev gen for me. I want that.
And I think that's a great point to make, and I'll mentally hand that back to the collective, because when you have a network of trusted advisors who are also, high quality professionals who deliver well, you can say to client, absolutely, me and or my team can make that happen for you. And then you pull that back into your network. This is planning ahead, right? Have a great network that you can lean on and lean into and say, all right, team, how do we do this? And that's all planning ahead. Planning ahead is building your network. Planning ahead is having extra revenue. Planning ahead is having a rainy day fund built up. All of that is planning ahead so that you can mitigate and or leverage. Because sometimes an opportunity is going to require an investment. And sometimes, a worst case scenario is going to require investment. So both of those situations, it's good to have funds available in addition to your own mental resources.
Being able to call on your network and professionally get support, the way you just expressed that was a lot more eloquently said than help. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's what it feels like inside, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Inside, it's like, okay, there's a real problem.
Right.
Liz Watson is the leader on the Impact Trail, and she does planning for a living as well. So Liz, what do you think of this conversation? What do you have to add to the 3 different paths, the strategic trinity, the way Michael laid it out?
Yeah, Michael, I really like how you look at that and share that with your clients. It's so great, right? Because then you don't feel stuck. Like you have to have the one ultimate fantastic plan, and that's the only one you can create that will help you. And
right.
your recent discussion on it's not just planning for how the heck do I get the revenue. It's what you said, Jennifer. If I want to get to here, when I'm planning for the quarter or the next couple of quarters, what staffing or what referrals or who might I need to be able to connect with in case that thing happens, then I'm ready to jump. So all great stuff. Thanks for your insight, Michael.
Absolutely. Thanks for the reinforcement, Liz. Appreciate it.
That's part of the networking game that you don't think about a lot. There's networking where I might be able to find a client or maybe someone I can refer, but kind of putting to the side in a strategic plan, if I needed this, I'd try and hire that person, or I'd look up that person. I found myself do that a little bit, and it's a good chance to, it kind of is a different style of networking, because usually you're networking to find business, not necessarily strategic partners.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the way I teach networking. Actually, when I do the workshop for the Brookfield Chamber, I say networking is both an art and a science, and the art is the mindset. And my shorthand for it is ABC. So with apologies to Glengarry Glen Ross, my ABC is always be connecting, because I never know where that next opportunity is going to come from and who I'm going to need, whose support I might need to pull it off.
That's great. Anything else?
Thanks, Brad, for the visual. Do you just have that on your desk as inspiration, like always at the ready? I love it. That's awesome.
Anything else about strategic trinity planning that you want to cover, Michael? Because this has been great.
No, I think, as I said before, put it this way, it doesn't take, as I think a lot of us, you shared and asked, I don't want this to look and feel like it is harder. It shouldn't be harder than it looks. It's actually relatively simple. If you think in terms of what's my dream case scenario, what would I do if that happened? What's my worst case scenario? What would I do if that happened? That, and just document, just writing that down. Sometimes just the simple activity of writing that down is all that you need. I would encourage you to go, full bore on the target scenario. When we do it, we do 4 goals, 6 plans each for a quarter, and then we leverage that down through the weeks. If you want help with that kind of level of thinking, obviously that's what we do, not just well, but I think that's one of our sweet spots. But in addition, just getting people to think bigger and also be realistic about worst case. That's why you need a coach. Coaches need coaches. Doctors need doctors. So if you need some support on this, we are here to help. And like I said, I have a pause here as we transition. I'll drop a link in the chat for scheduling.
It's a great way to get started with you too, right? That's how we
Absolutely.
would start if you hired a new client. We've got one more question we're going to sneak
absolutely.
in. Lynn Karazi is on the call, and Lynn had a question. Lynn, can you share the question that you wanted for Michael?
Oh, and I see it in the chat. So Lynn, say it out loud. I think this is a great question. Oh, Lynn, you're on mute.
Yeah. So I was more or less making the observation that this is great because I've been recently challenged to say, do you always want to be a one-person shop? Or what happens if your marketing really takes off and you get more business you can handle? What do you do? And I would go, I don't know.
Right.
But so this is a very, very relevant conversation. So I appreciate that being reinforced again here.
Absolutely. And I know I'll frame that up for everybody. We call that proof of concept when it comes to the size of your business. And there's the solo all the way up to the franchise. Solo plus 1 team and then franchise. And the idea is at each of these stages, and I like the way that Darren, our CEO, does this. He says that one of the key tests about what level you're at is how many days you can go without working and still make money.
That's a great line.
Isn't that great?
Man, that is great.
Right? So at the solo, you can go a day. Like if you're not working, you're not getting paid. At the plus 1, you're at maybe a couple days. At the team level, you might actually be able to go up to a week or 2 weeks. At the franchise, we say you can take a 90-day sabbatical and the business keeps running, nothing burns down, and you keep making money. And if you, and you can, obviously you can sell out at this point, like you can, or you can, sorry, not sell, you can sell at this point, or, you know, hand it off to your kids at this point. But if you can't take 90 days off and the business keeps running and you keep making money, A, nobody's going to want to buy you, and B, your kids aren't ready to take it over. Yeah. So like that framework works really well at all of these levels. 2 weeks, 2 days. Yeah, like 2 hours maybe. So there you go.
Well, that's great stuff, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing some of the insight that Spearity provides, and your unique perspective of detail thinking and creative thinking is something you don't run into very often. So I really appreciate you, and thank you for coming on the call.
Well, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity to share it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, so we're going to move on to the roundtable portion. We're going to have a discussion about a bunch of different stuff, but we have the brainstorming session, which seems to be the toughest part to get started, which always blows my mind because we can all use an idea, or we might have a problem that we need to battle through. We'll look around this call and look at the brains that are here. So this is a great chance to get some help from a really good group. So if you need some help, make sure you drop into the chat, and Jennifer will give me a high sign and we'll get you on the air. But let's start with wins of the week. So does anyone have a win that they'd like to share this week? Something that went well, and that tends to be a good way to start the roundtable discussion on the call.
I mean, I'll always go first. Oh,
okay,
here we go. Right. Michelle Miller. No, hold on. Michelle Miller, she can go first. She got a big W.
No, you already get started, Mr. Mustache. Go for it.
All right. Rage Room, MKE, was featured in On Milwaukee Magazine on Friday with a boatload of shares and our best week ever in revenue. So we haven't announced our official grand opening now that we are open, but we're getting some traction. So that's a huge W. Pat from the Rage Room is on here in all his beard. But yeah, a huge win for our team this week that we took a business from concept through a pandemic and actually launched it.
All right, tell us what the Rage Room is real quick, because it's unique. Just give us the 30-second pitch on the Rage Room.
Entertainment, come here, break shit, we clean it up, have fun with your friends, bachelorette parties, divorce parties, weddings, funerals, we do it all. Call Pat, he's your guy. Rage Room, MKE. I don't know the phone number. I don't know if we have a phone number. I'm sure there's a plug there.
That's great. Okay, that's what we wanted. All right, tough act to follow. Michelle Miller, you've got something that happened that was good for you. Share that with us.
Yeah, this morning I was able to help a customer instead of having to pass it over to one of my technicians. And this is thanks to Jennifer Buchholz, who has been sharing a lot of great information on her tech tips and on Ask the Techsperts. And today the question was about OneDrive, and I was able to help out thanks to what she taught me. Thank you,
awesome.
Jennifer.
That's a double win. Jennifer taught you something and you got to use it. That's great.
Hey, I have something.
Yes, Rhonda, go.
Hi. So actually there's two things, but they're kind of related. Pat and I did a meeting about 9 months ago with a bank and proposed an idea that I had for them. And we just got approval that they approved to do, they set aside 50 grand of unsecured money that we can use to help women going through divorce. So it'll be an unsecured loan, low interest, and when those funds are paid off, it will open up that spot for somebody else. So game changer, exclusive deal with Women's Financial Wellness Center and Bank 59. Super excited. And I just got an email from them that they want me have me back on their radio show for the second time. So thanks, Pat.
You're welcome. How many folks can go through at one time on that $50,000?
10.
So you can help 10 women that couldn't secure funding otherwise. And that way, it's like it's a rotating line of credits. You can just keep on people in the program and keep on growing.
Nice.
Yeah, super
That's
excited.
incredible. Incredible. Congratulations. That's awesome. Okay, other wins that we want to celebrate before we move on to a group brainstorm, if there are any, or go on to this article from Andrew Yang that kind of caught my eye.
Lynn, did you have one? It looked like your hand was up.
No, I was waving at Rhonda.
Oh, okay. Hi, Rhonda. All right, great. Well, let's transition then. Let's move on. Unless someone has a brainstorming idea that they want some help with, and this call is loaded. If so, drop it in or forever hold your peace. But while you think about that, let's go on to this article that Andrew Yang was quoted in. And I shared it on my LinkedIn page and it got some traction. Andrew Yang tweeted about seriously considering, he said, we should seriously consider a 4-day work week to boost mental health. And it came from a tweet where he was comparing a 3-day weekend to a 2-day weekend. And then they started like dropping in some statistics on the places that have tried a 4-day work week. And one of the things was from Japan. Microsoft's Japan subsidiary tried it out, and they saw a 40% increase in productivity, which I find interesting. Higher job satisfaction, and Andrew Yang says it would also create jobs in the margins. What he means by that is people who can't work a full 5-day work week, but they might be able to work 4 days a week. So it could increase the amount of folks that could get into the labor force and help things grow. So I'm intrigued by Alan's first comment, because Alan is in the chat saying he tries to do that every week. So is that purposeful, or is that just how you try and structure things, Alan?
I try to structure having Fridays off, at the very least having Friday afternoons off. It started out several years ago as just a summer thing because my business is a little slow in the summer. I've been able to move it pretty much year round. So it makes it easier. Gives you a nice opportunity to get out of the office on Fridays and not worry about it. And really clients haven't noticed.
So are you doing 4 8-hour days? Or are you having to go up to 9 or 10-hour days to try and get everything done?
It just depends on what my week looks like, but most weeks I can get it all done in 4 8s.
Okay. Are you finding yourself to be more productive because you know you've got that extra time?
Some weeks, yes. Some weeks, no. And then I end up working Friday morning if I didn't have a very productive week. So it's kind of nice to have the flexibility.
Has anyone else worked a schedule like this? Thank you, Alan, by the way. Has anyone else worked a schedule like this? If you have, just unmute yourself and jump in, because I find this really intriguing. And it kind of comes on the back of really evaluating what our schedule looks like and what Serena was talking about. 2 weeks ago, I was talking on the show how I had a chance to record a podcast with Serena, and she blew my mind when she said, well, we get to make our own schedule. So if you're not working a schedule that you like, it's really your fault. And that really got inside my head. So has anyone else worked a schedule like this in their past jobs, or they're working it now?
Yeah, I'll jump in. We switched about 2 years ago to our previous company doing 4/10s, and we let our guys decide what 4 days they work. And what we realized is the younger guys want 3-day weekends typically, so they wanted either off on Monday or off on Friday, but the older guys wanted Tuesdays or Wednesdays off, or Thursdays, so they could work to have a day off in the middle of the week to run errands and whatnot. So they worked 4 10-hour days, and we've been doing that for 2.5 years. And again, it started out of the summer because our guys were working 12 hours, 10-hour days. It started out of necessity. And when we went back to 5-day weeks over the winter, because there were less hours, they would rather have less hours and have their designated day off during the week. And job satisfaction was through the roof. And when we had morale issues, it was always because the guys were working 5 days a week, and they liked their 4 days a week. So think about it not just from a salaried, hey, if I can get it done, but also from an hourly technician standpoint. If guys can work 4 days a week, it's one day they can sleep in, run errands, go out the night before and get hammered, whatever they do, and also let them decide, if you have 5 or 6, because you have to think about service days too with your customers. But now you can also increase the amount of employees you have. So we went from 12 employees to 16 employees, which gave us greater flexibility to serve our customers on Saturdays, especially because some people, Saturday was their work day. It was that simple. So there's huge advantages to a 4-day work week, and you can still have 6 service days a week. So I'm all about it.
Is that one of those benefits that if you give, you can't go back from? Rhonda made the point that if you go to 4 days, will you ever be able to go back to 5?
No, when we tried going back to 5 over the winter, when we had shorter hours, guys hated it. That was a huge point of contention. We're like, we're trying to give you 40 hours. They're like, I'd rather have 36 over 4 days than 40 hours because there was a quality of life thing. That extra $50 wasn't as important as having that day off.
So what do you prefer? You work 24/7, right?
Yeah, 4 days. I hope to get 2 4-day work days in every week. No, I go to the beach on Sundays. That's my jam. I take off Sunday. That's my beach days.
That's great. Anyone else work an odd schedule or has tried a schedule like this in the past? Oh, yes, JB.
When I was in corporate, I was in financial services, and it just made sense for us to do Fridays off. And then when I went into academics, it was Fridays off as well. So yeah, after like 10 years of that, I was never going back to working for Fridays, at least for anybody but myself.
Yeah, now it's yours and you build it. Although without even like planning it, we have kind of a, in my head, I'm connecting two things that aren't really connected. Michael's presentation about goal planning and projecting what's going to happen this quarter and next quarter, and the real tangible personal profit that comes from not working. It's not that you're making more money, but you're paying yourself if you're not working, if you're a solopreneur, right? If you can work it out so that you get to take, like Alan, a Friday afternoon off, or maybe all of Friday off. I wonder if there's like, if we're hitting two subjects that should be combined or something. Is that resonating in your head, Michael, or does that make, I mean, is it just me being crazy?
Not being crazy at all. I mean, when we get into the idea about what does success look like for you, A, define that. B, there's a level of productivity law. This is economics, the law of diminishing returns. At some point, more effort in does not equal more product out. And understanding what that looks like for you and looks like for your workers is key. And then, yes, back to the idea about how do you make money, you need to find a way to make money without working, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but you need to be thinking about how does my business make money that doesn't involve, I would say, my hands. How can I make money without putting my hands on the machine? And every time I can do that, my business can grow because now I can actually grow and multiply my revenue.
Right. How can you do less trading of time for dollars?
That. How can I get paid to just be smart and not do the thing?
And talk to people, right, Andy?
Always talk to people. Find smart people and surround yourself with them. Well, I was just thinking about this. I did after I paused, and I was like, oh, yeah, I just take Sundays off. No, I had my daughter the last 2 weeks, and I took off 2 full days in the last 2 weeks. I went to the zoo one day, and the other day my daughter had 3 play days. She got a better social calendar than I do. And those 2 days with my daughter were the best 2 days I had the last 2 weeks because the company ran itself. I didn't have to wear pants, and I got to spend time with my daughter. And that, to me, is worth it, exactly what you said. How do I make money and still maintain my life? How do those two things align? And having that time, as much as I love working, I love my daughter more. And so that's why I do what I do, have more time. And I am very intentional, even as the owner, to take that time, communicate to your staff, and also know that I'll be there if I have to be, but I also need time for me.
They are play dates, but it does sound like your daughter's getting more dates than you are.
Hey-o!
Pat Riley's on the call, and Pat has quite a large team. Now, Pat, I'm curious about your feedback on this. I see you in the chat, and you mentioned that France had tried this, and it didn't go as well as they had anticipated. But I want to ask you as an employer yourself, because you've got quite a large team. Is this something you would ever consider, or is this crazy talk to you as a person that has a large staff?
Well, I work on average 5.5 hours or 5.5 to 6 days a week. I try to, give my folks as much flexibility as I can with their days and their hours and things like that. That's their time, and they've earned it. But I think I'm not sure, I think it was Andy who had said, that's a door that you open and it never gets closed. And I would rather have it be something that we offer as a benefit for having us hit a successful point on a curve, for us to be able to say, if we can do these things, we can have these things in a temporary type of a positive environment, as opposed to something that is just guaranteed and it's now yours and now owned by you, and now Fridays are no longer on the calendar. I would have a hard time, I think, running a business if I wasn't open on Friday.
So Liz, let's go to you. Thank you, Pat. Let's go to Liz. What are you saying about setting boundaries with a staff? Can you explain that just for a second?
Well, and it may not just be for staff, but for those of us who are solopreneurs, those that we work with, right? Our clients or others. what your schedule is. If you need to not have any appointments past 4:30 because your child is coming home and you want to spend a half an hour with them, or you know what I mean? Or I'm definitely going to start checking messages at this time every morning. So if I don't respond before that, you know, therefore here's my schedule. So right, it's boundaries from, part of it is just time frame of what you're working, but also boundaries on how to connect with you. If you never check email, maybe that's not the best way. And letting them know that, by the way, this would be the best way to contact me if you need it. If it's truly an urgent issue, maybe this is the best way to get a hold of me, or here's a backup. So just helping people understand you as a person, what your boundaries are, or for your company. So it's not always just your team, but everybody you work with.
I think flashing back to the call I had with Serena, I hadn't thought about any of that stuff. Do you run into that, Liz, when you talk to people about planning? I never thought. Part of it was I never thought I could do that. But the other part was I never really thought about that. Is that something that you run into when you ask questions like that?
Right. Part of it is, oh, yes, I haven't allowed myself to do that as a business owner yet. And that's usually one of the things I point out when we talk about them as the leader, and ask if they've set that. And even setting that with each client before you work with them. Here's the boundaries of how we are going to work together. What are your boundaries? What are mine? So you can have a successful relationship in the long term.
That's good. That's really good stuff. All right, last call for comments on this topic of flexible scheduling, what we might want to do, boundaries. I mean, this is all.
When you said boundaries, it made me think of something. My uncle ran a dental practice for 30 years before he passed, and my cousin since taken it over, and they've had the same schedule for 30 years. They're open Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays, and his schedule was always Mondays and Tuesdays. He saw patients and had extended hours on Mondays and Thursdays. Wednesdays, he always went fishing and played golf, and Fridays was the day that they did all the accounting and bookwork. So they worked 4 days a week, but it was 3.5 days. And he had his retention with his staff, 20, 25 plus years on his hygienist and his front end office manager. And the customers over time were conditioned to that. Like if you want an early or late appointment, it's on Mondays and Thursdays. And if you want a midday appointment, it's on Tuesdays. And he kept customers happy. So it can be done even when you have clients.
Yeah.
You have to condition everybody for it. And then you're set. So it can be done. You just have to make that choice. It's all about choices.
So these are the days and times. Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for just because we are working doesn't mean that means we're automatically available to, to our clients. And, I mean, I get calls at all sorts of random times of picking my brain, and I'm like, my brain is not in that space right now. I'm happy to help. Can we put something on the calendar so I can put my brain in a place to help you? Because if I'm I'll pick up, if it's a business call, I'm often picking up. I pick up the numbers if I don't recognize them, because those are possible clients for me. That's just what I do. But if I pick up a call and I'm driving and I'm like, yeah, now is not the time for that, I'm happy to set something up. I think it's unreasonable for somebody to expect that you're going to be able to answer right away. I don't know if people are expecting that, and maybe it's us setting those expectations. I'm curious though.
Yeah. Sandra makes an interesting point as we look forward to what's going to happen this fall. Sandra, can you weigh in with what you dropped into the chat? Because I want to make sure that this gets on the recording, because it might be a place where we have to all make this decision coming up.
Well, and my kids are 18 and older, so I am beyond this. But on Facebook, I'm hearing feedback from parents going, oh no, they could be in school 1 week, 3 days a week, the next week, 2 days a week. And I'm wondering, my schedule's always been flexible and I could handle that, but I'm wondering, and I just saw an article the other day about Florida State University is now saying you are not allowed to do childcare if you can't come back to work, but you are not also allowed to do your childcare. And there are some places that childcare it's not available, it's not open right now. So I'm just wondering, are businesses going to have to be more adaptable to this?
Well, I know one client that's run into a situation where everyone went home. Yeah, Pat, do you want to jump in on this?
Yeah, just as somebody who employs a few people, you do. because it's reality, and you don't want to get into the childcare business. And you have to be very, very careful of that. And Pat and I, we've had many conversations about this, that we're not going to allow our employees' childcare to get in the way of what we need to get done. But there is still reality of, somebody needing to take some time to go pick up their kids or be with their kids and work from home instead of working in our office environment, which we've spent an enormous amount of money and resources building. And so as a result of COVID, we created an at-home policy, which we are right now testing officially. It's officially testing because we haven't made any changes to the official policy yet, because we want to see the production and how it works. But yes, it has affected us because it has to. My people have kids, and I care about those kids, by the way. And I care about how they do, and I care about how their parents do. So
something that has hit me is that because the job is happening at home, the interruption in their productivity could almost be looked at as like leasing their time, right? They're at their home doing their job where their kids are. And the cost of that is that it might not be as uninterrupted or as, pure of a time because of their life. We're intruding on their life while they do their job from home, which is just something that's happened to us through the virus. I mean, I never really thought of it that way, that it's kind of an expense, if you will, because you want to take care of your employees and you have to accommodate them as they take care of their family. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So we are, Michael, why don't you weigh in on this? Can you share what you just put inside the comments there?
Yeah, I was just saying with all of these things, it's important to set expectations, but as you set those expectations, evaluate, I say break them down into smaller segments. Is it, this is what I expect because this is what I've always expected? Is it because it's for the customer? Is it the hours I put in or the work to be done? So whenever you're evaluating expectations, make them smaller. So break the bigger expectations down to their smaller parts, do a little 5 whys exercise. Why is that what I expect? And when you get down to the root of that expectation, more often than not, there's many ways to meet that expectation, not just the traditional way you've been meeting it. And whatever pilot or testing you're doing, set a goal for that. So this is what good looks like. This is the level of failure I'm willing to weather through, so that it's not just, I hope this works. Well, what does works looks like? I hope this, I hope the 4-hour work week is better than what? So make sure you're setting some sort of, again, plan ahead, set a goal, set a number, so you're evaluating objectively as opposed to just, I feel better about this or my employees are complaining.
So you can't just drop 5 whys and not explain it. You just threw out a technique and
okay.
Give us the 30 seconds on that, because that sounds like a thing.
It is. A short version of 5 whys is asking the question, why is that the case? Why is that happening? 5 is kind of the general magic number. You dig below whatever is on the surface to get to a root cause. So you can look up 5 whys. Okay, I'll give the 1-minute version. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., the Jefferson Memorial, you know where that is, right? It's the big marble, beautiful building. The Jefferson Memorial exterior was deteriorating much faster than all the other monuments on the mall. So the workers who cleaned it started trying different chemicals and different chemicals. This went on for 2 years. And finally, somebody said, why does this one have this problem? Like, there's all these other monuments on the mall. They're all made of the same material. Why are we having the problem at the Jefferson Memorial? Oh, that's because of all the pigeon droppings. So that's the first why. Pigeon droppings. Why are there more pigeon droppings at the Jefferson Memorial? Well, because of all the spiders. Why are there all the spiders? Because of all the gnats. Why are there all the gnats? Well, gnats come out at dusk, and the Jefferson Memorial butts up against the Potomac. So when we turn the lights on at dusk on the Jefferson Memorial, all the gnats swarm, causes the spiders, the pigeons, the droppings, the chemicals. So 2 years, this is true stories, 2 years, they changed out the chemicals for over 2 years until they finally said, what happens if we turn the lights on 30 minutes later? Remove the gnats, the spiders, the pigeons, the droppings, the need for extra chemicals, Jefferson Memorial is restored. 5 whys solves the problem typically cheaper and faster than whatever solutions you're trying right now. So when in doubt, pause and ask why 5 times. You'll get to a root cause, and if the answer is not yet obvious, you're not deep enough.
Stuff like that is why we do these calls. That's brilliant, Michael. And
there you
now
go.
I know I will never be able to take my wife, Abby Miller, to the Jefferson Memorial ever again.
Well, it's problem solved now. You're fine.
Oh,
you're
okay.
fine.
Great. Okay, that's great. Because as soon as you said spiders, I thought, oh man.
And we're done. Yeah.
All right. So great discussion again today, everyone. So I want to share one quick thing that's going on because I'm really excited about a piece of video. So as those of you that are in the Idea Collective know, we're just now kicking off a membership drive between now and July 27th. Because on July 27th, we are going to have internationally known keynote speaker, best-selling author Mike Michalowicz anchor a webinar for us, a workshop on Monday the 27th. So between now and the 27th, we're encouraging everybody to get in for the webinar. And on the 27th, we're going to close the doors on the Idea Collective so we can all get to know each other for a couple of months before we invite new members in. Well, as part of booking Mike and getting him to be a part of this webinar, I asked him to do a promotional video. So I'm going to share my promotional video with you. And I'm not sure if the audio is going to come through. All right, so you're going to have to give me a thumbs up if you hear the audio, but you can all see Mike there, right? Okay, great. Give me a thumbs up if you hear the audio, okay?
So how's 2020 going for you? You know, we are experiencing the greatest macroeconomic shift since the Great Depression of 1929. Almost 100 years later, and businesses are being devastated.
Pat, it's really quiet on the audio. Can we try that again?
Oh, I know why, because it's coming out of this. Hang on just a sec. I can do this again because it was coming out of the wrong speaker. My bad. There we go. Let's do that. Take two.
All that high-tech fancy stuff. Let's do this.
That's right. Here we go.
So how's 2020 going for you? You know, we are experiencing the greatest macroeconomic shift since the Great Depression of 1929. It's almost 100 years later, and businesses are being devastated if they're not doing different. In fact, that's the opportunity that's in front of you. My name is Mike Michalowicz. I'm the author of Profit First, Clockwork. Few of the books I have strategically positioned back there. And I'm proud to say on July 27th, I am doing a private workshop, one-on-one, through the Idea Collective. So if you're serious about improving your business, and if you seek to be the industry authority, this is the event for you. July 27th. Now make sure you sign up. I'm going to be there. You need to be there. Oh, and by the way, the Idea Collective will give you more support than just learning what to do. They're going to turn that into opportunity. It's a collaborative environment. Yeah, that's a win-win. And that's how you navigate 2020. See you there, July 27th.
So I got that back and I got really excited. So we're going to put together an entire folder full of goodies. I know, right? He gave me 2 videos. That's just one of them. There's another video that he gave me, which is also very, very cool. So we've got an entire folder full of goodies that I was going to try and share here on the call, but we'll put it up inside the Idea Collective. And we're looking for you to invite 1 or 2 of your best contacts to join us. It's going to be great. So when I got that video, I just almost fell off my chair. So we're up against time. So first of all, I want to thank you all for coming today. It's a great discussion as well. Michael Rampolla, you're a genius. Thank you so much. And a big thank you to Jennifer Buchholz for being the show planner, showrunner, and my business BFF. Thank you to our sponsors, Serendipity Labs, and of course, the Idea Collective for Small Business Owners. Don't forget to text the word biz to 414-240-1315. That way you'll get the link, so that way you can get in here easier next time. But with that, we're done for today. The Small Business Rally Point. I'm Pat Miller, the Idea Coach. Thanks for coming by. Talk to you soon.